Hello, welcome to my talk on creating Semantic Cloud Notes app using Azure AI, MongoDB Realm and Angular. My name is Dhananjay Kumar. I work as a senior curriculum developer at MongoDB. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I'm a Google developer expert and organizer of Angular conference in India. You can follow me on Twitter at debug_mode. But before we begin, I would like to thank all the volunteers, all the sponsors, and organizing committee to put together such a great Azure community conference. We have speakers from all across the world, and I'm sure all of us are going to have great learning for next 3 days. So please make best use of these 3 days and learn from all these amazing speakers in various tracks. So as you see from title of my talk that we are going to create a notes app, and we are calling it as Semantic Cloud Notes App. Semantic means we would put some emotional analysis of that notes using Azure Cognitive Services text analysis. Cloud means we are going to store it on MongoDB Atlas, which is MongoDB in the cloud. And it's an app which we are going to create using Angular. So in our talk, this is the agenda. We would start with first looking at the demo which we have created. Then we would understand all the various technologies which we have used in creating that. We would go through slides and try to understand various features of MongoDB Realm. We would see that how we can use that inside Angular application and so on. So this is the architecture of our application. The data is in MongoDB Atlas, which is MongoDB as a service. Then there's a Realm app. Realm app provides you everything which you can think of to speed up your development process. It has authentication, it has functions, it has triggers, and we'll talk more about that in further in the talk. Then in the Realm app, we are using Azure Cognitive Services text analysis, and they are hosted on Azure Data Center, and then we are using that inside Angular single page app. So let us start with looking into the demo, and then we'll come back to the slide and understand all the features of all these various technological components. So this is how our application looks. As you look at here, this has first you have to log in to the system. If you can go and sign up from here. When you sign up here, let's say that I'm giving a new email address, for example, dhananjay.25july@gmail.com. And then I can give some passwords, and when I press on join, what it will do, it will send a email confirmation email on this particular email address. Now what happens that to do that, we are not writing any code, and MongoDB Realm is taking care of that, and I would show you how. Anyway, I already have registered one user here, so let's log in that using that user. And then I put password and I'll say login. So once I logged in this in the app, you see that it has, as a user, I have put many notes. And let's go and write one more notes here. And let's say that we are saying this conference is really useful for me. I would look forward to join next year again. And here what we are doing from an Angular app, we are saving this in MongoDB Atlas. So for that we are saving it here, but before saving it in the Realm app, what we are doing, we are using Azure Cognitive Services text analysis and putting an emotion on the text which we have just entered. So if you go to home, And we just entered this conference is really useful for me, and I look forward to join next year again. And of course, this is a positive thought, and that's why you are getting a green there. If you go and write it here, some negative thoughts, for example, this talk is not good. And then when you save it and we go to home, and now you see that this talk is not good is a negative emotion, and you are getting here. So what I'm trying to show you here is that with very minimal code and leveraging the power of various technologies such as MongoDB Atlas, MongoDB Realm, Azure Cognitive Services, and Angular, we are able to create such a smart app here with fewer lines of code. Here, if I go and say that, hey, show me only my positive emotion, it is only showing me my positive notes. If I would say that show me my neutrals notes, it is showing me neutrals notes like I need to complete trade graph 2 again, and such that. The whole purpose of my talk is to show you that it may look like that, okay, this has, we are saving the data, we are performing user authentication, we are doing, we have here logout, we have here login, sign up, then searching, then saving, and when before saving we are finding, we are doing the semantic analysis of the data and all that. It looks a lot of things. But you'd see as the talk would proceed that it's very easy, and we have written a very less amount of code, less lines of code to achieve that. And that was possible, that is possible due to power of MongoDB Realm, which is helping us to perform all these sign up, sign in, login, password, and then saving data into MongoDB Atlas, which is MongoDB as a service, and your MongoDB is in the cloud. And then it is also integrated with Azure Cognitive Services. So I'm not making any Azure, our Angular application does not have any Azure Cognitive Services code and anything. So this is what our demo is. This is the app which we would see that how we can build. So here you see that in our application, there are mainly 4 components. One is MongoDB Atlas. So MongoDB Atlas is actually, it's your MongoDB in the cloud. It's kind of, if you're coming from SQL Server background, you can think of it as SQL Azure. So everything is managed by MongoDB. You just have to go through the browser and focus on your data. And so MongoDB Atlas we have used to save the data. Then we are using MongoDB Realm, that is the other component in our application. Now MongoDB Realm actually provides us a lot of functionalities, which we just discussed, from user management to running a function when a data is getting inserted, means triggers, means serverless functions, and data synchronization, even it can give you a GraphQL API on top of the data which is in the MongoDB Atlas, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Then we are using Azure Cognitive Services, and in that particularly we are using text analysis to find out the semantic information in the text which we are storing. And then our app is built in Angular. So these are the 4 components. Let's start with, let me start with showing you how MongoDB Atlas works. So to work with MongoDB Atlas, you need to go to cloud.mongodb.com and register yourself. When you go there, the first thing, you need to create a cluster. I already have a cluster here, but if you want, you can go and say that, hey, build a cluster. And here it is asking you that whether you want to create a shared cluster, dedicated multi-region clusters. Let me choose create a cluster here, and you see the differences in dedicated, multi-region, and shared cluster. Here I'll say that, hey, create a cluster. Now here it is asking you that the cluster means where you are going to save your data. You want to save that data in AWS or Google Cloud or Azure. So you have option to choose your preferred cloud provider. You can use Azure, you can use GCP, you can use AWS. Now MongoDB Atlas even supports multi-cloud, means you can have your data shared across AWS and Azure if you wish to. So here, let's say that we can go and select Azure, then it is showing us all the data center of Azure. We can choose one of the data center depending on our requirement. So here, let's say that I'm saying that, okay, give me Virginia. And then here in the cluster tier, it is saying that it has this RAM, storage, and all. If you want, you can increase that, and of course, depending on your requirement. So you can choose whether you want M10, M20, M30. One of them you can choose as per your requirement. Then it has additional settings. In the additional settings, you can choose MongoDB version, which MongoDB version you wish to be installed on the cluster. Then turn the cloud backup. Of course, you want your data to be backed up. Then it has that whether you want to shard your cluster. Now, sharding is a concept which allows you to save your data on a multiple server. In MongoDB, if you want, if you have a lot of data, large set of data, you can use shard your cluster. For this, I'm leaving it as it is. And then I can say that, okay, cluster name, I can give it, and I can click on create a cluster. This is as easy as what I just explained you to create a cluster. So I already have a cluster here created, and so I have to do and test. So let's see that if I go to the test cluster. In the test cluster, it is showing me that it has what are the operations, connections, etc. on the dashboard now active on that. I can connect to that. I can go and see the collections, like what are the collections inside that cluster. Collection is equivalent to table if you're coming from SQL Server background. So here it would list me all the collections. You see that here I have, let's say that if I go to test, and in the test I have sequence, and here what I'm saving the data which we just talked, which I just shown you in the demo. And if you see that our last data was this talk is not good, this conference is really useful for me. Let's go ahead and save one more data here. So I would log in, and let's say that we would go and write Happy Diwali and New Year everyone, and we are saving this here. So we saved it here. Now let's come back here, and here we can say that, okay, refresh. And here we got Happy Diwali, and this is a positive notes, and that's what this positive is. Keep in mind, I'll show you later that we are not saving this positive and negative from Angular app. When data is inserted in MongoDB Atlas, in MongoDB Realm, insert trigger is getting triggered, and on that trigger we are calling a serverless function. And that serverless function is a JavaScript function. And from there, once data is inserted, we are integrating Azure Cognitive Service and then finding emotion in nodes. So this is how your cluster is, and it has you can go and find indexes, aggregations, search indexes. Those are MongoDB features, like indexing to have faster queries. If you have created indexes on the query, then those data MongoDB tries to keep in the RAM such that the queries are faster. Then it has a schema anti-pattern, aggregation, indexes, etc. All right, so this is how Atlas looks, and I request you and recommend you that go ahead and explore it. It has the free version available to create a cluster and everything. And if you have any question, you can reach out to me. So once we understood the first concept, first component of our application, which is MongoDB Atlas, let us go and understand what is MongoDB Realm. Now, MongoDB Realm here is, let's come here in the cluster, and you see that on the top you have another option, Realm. So click on Realm. And now it will show me the Realm apps which I have created. So I already have a Realm app created, but if you want, you can go and create a new app. So when you go and create a new app, it would ask you that, do you want to give a name to that app? Also, it would tell you that, can you select for which cluster you want to create this Realm app. I have only one cluster, C0, which is being shown here. So it says this name will be used internally and cannot be changed later. So be very careful about when creating a Realm app. Then Realm lets you build on top of data in MongoDB Atlas, cluster or data lake. We already have cluster created. Here all the cluster would be shown. You can choose from the drop down. And then it has advanced configuration, which is telling you that whether you want to keep it in a different data center, on the same data center where your data is. You can choose it from here. So I already have created a Realm application here. And let's get into that. And if you look at the left hand side, these many features you have from the Realm. Like you can create a rules, you can create schema, you can add users, authentications. It has SDKs. As I discussed, GraphQL, like you don't have to do anything. Just with one click, it will create GraphQL API on top of data, which is in MongoDB Atlas. And all we know that GraphQL is very popular nowadays. Then it has functions, then it has triggers. You can have values and secrets, means you can store your like Azure Key Vault. Here you have values and secrets. Then it has, you can manage your Realms app. It can show you logs. If you go to the logs, it would show you that whatever is a log on that Realms app. Then it has a static web hosting also. You can use that. I would come back to Realm app again after we'll go through the features in the slides. So here we just saw that MongoDB Atlas, then we saw MongoDB Realm. Also, what I have done, I'm using Azure Cognitive Services text analysis. And for that, here you see that in Azure portal, I have created Azure Cognitive Services text analysis app. And that app name is Emotion Notes. And just I followed the screen, next, selected the data center, selected the resource group and all that. And here it is and this app I'm using, this particular Azure Cognitive Services app I'm using to do the semantic analysis of the notes which we are saving. So here, this is what we have. These are the components of our application. I'd go to Angular again, but before that, let's go back to the slide again and look at the features of MongoDB Realm, and then we'll see that how we have integrated that and how easy it is to integrate MongoDB Realm and perform all the operations which we have seen in the app, in the demo app, after the slides in an Angular app. So now this app architecture might be making more sense to you, that our data is in Atlas. Then on top of that, we have Realm app. Then Angular, we are going to use Angular to create that app, and then Azure Cognitive Services text analysis. So here, we just saw MongoDB Atlas in the action. MongoDB Atlas is MongoDB as a service. It provides an easy way to host and manage your data in the cloud. So if you are using MongoDB Atlas, it is global available and you can scale it on any data center. It is a multi-cloud data distribution. You can choose in between Azure, GCP and AWS preferred cloud provider. It is highly available and scalable for multi-cloud clusters. It is fully automated for infrastructure provisioning. It is fully automated for database setup, versioning and maintenance. and it is very high performance by scaling up your data in any direction. And if you are interested, you can learn more about MongoDB Atlas on the URL given here. So we have already seen MongoDB Atlas in the action. We saw that how we can create a cluster. Next, MongoDB Realm. What MongoDB Realm does, it is a serverless platform and mobile database for a mobile developer, a backend developer, and a web developer. If you are creating a mobile application, or if you are creating even a backend application, or of course, if you are creating a web application, which we have created in this demo, MongoDB Realm provides us a serverless platform for that. MongoDB Realm has mainly these features. It helps us to do user management and authentication, MongoDB data access. It synchronizes your data from various devices. It gives you a GraphQL on top of the database by just one button click. It has functions. It has triggers, it has services, static hosting, values and secrets, and application management. So MongoDB Realm, if you look at the features, have everything which you need as a web developer or mobile developer to speed up your development process. We created a MongoDB Realm app in the UI, and we saw that how you can create that. Next, here you see that, so again, if you are using MongoDB Realm for the mobile applications, it helps you to keep data sync in the real time. You can have data on the device, and then when there's internet, it can sync back to the server. It has data encrypted, data stored directly embedded on the device. You can access the same data concurrently from the multiple thread. Again, read more about that on mongodb.com/realm. In our application, out of all the features of MongoDB Realm, we are using user and authentication, we are using MongoDB data access, and we are using functions. And we would look into that. So let's understand user and authentication, since we are using that in our application. So MongoDB provides you all these type of user authentication. You can have anonymous authentication, you can have email and password authentication, you can have custom JWT authentication, you can have API key authentication, Facebook authentication, Google authentication, and Apple ID authentication. And these are the authentication provider supported by MongoDB Realm. You can choose as depending on your requirement. In our application, we are choosing email and password authentication, and I'll show you that how easy to work with that. Now, user and authentication in MongoDB Realm, it's very easy to work with it. As you see on the slide, user can be authenticated from the multiple authentication provider. You can have email and password authentication. You can have a Facebook authentication. Also, one of the very good feature, if you are working on a mobile application, it allows you to log in. It allows more than one user to log in from the device, like how you do in Instagram, like you can have multiple users. So Realm very much supports that, but there could be only one active user at any time, of course. Then when a user is authenticated, Realm starts a user session, and user does not have to enter password to make request. Realm Web SDK mainly stores your user token and refresh token in the browser local storage. And I'll show you that in the Angular app, that when we logged in using the Realm, already those tokens, your user token and refresh token and the user information is stored in the browser local storage. And when you perform logout operation, those things would get deleted from the local storage. And we would see them in the action in the Angular app. Now it has triggers. So Realm trigger executes database or application logic in response to an event or predefined schedule. So these are three types of triggers in Realm. Database triggers means when you insert a document, when you update a document, when you remove a document. If you want to perform certain action, you can achieve that using database triggers. There's authentication triggers. So when you perform user authentication, user creation or user deletion, and on top of that you want to do something like sending email or those kind of things, you can do that using authentication triggers. And it has scheduled triggers as well. What does it mean? That your function can be executed, can run on a regular interval according to a predefined schedule. So these are the three types of triggers in MongoDB Realm. Now, functions are the functions which are running on the server. Realm functions are ES6 functions to run server-side logic on the server. So we are making call to Azure Cognitive Service text analysis in the Realm function. So from Angular app, we are just inserting the data. Once data is inserted, due to insertion of record, a trigger is getting triggered, and then that trigger is calling a function, and that function is making a call to Azure Cognitive Services and then updating the document. So a function can be called from client application, it can be called from a Realm function, and you can call it from a JSON expression as well. Keep in mind that functions are executed in a serverless manner. A function has access to current Realm application, the application which is running the function, logged in user, which is calling the function, and also it has the information about the execution context. One thing which is very important here is that async operations are not supported, but promises are supported. What does it mean? That even though it's ES6, you cannot have async and await in your function. If you want to work with, then you have to go old style promises .then in Realm functions. And the values which function returns are extended JSON. These are not plain JSON, such that it can preserve the JSON types. Now, what is JSON types? MongoDB stores data in form of JSON, and please go ahead and read more about that. But this is what so to preserve the types of JSON, the returned values are encoded as extended JSON. So here the thing about functions are they can be executed from application, they can be executed from other Realm function. A function has access to current user, current application, and it is a ES6 function. So you can actually write you can use all the ES6 features such as your arrow function, late, const, classes. It performs async operation, but through the promises, not through the async and await. All right. These are some characteristics of function which you need to know, that a function runtime is limited to 90 seconds. A function memory usage is limited to 56 MB. So if you are making a call to an API in Realm function, and if that API is exceeding more than 90 seconds, function would get de-executed. The function supports ES6 features. A function supports promises. Now, enabling rules, this is very important. So you can enable a rule in MongoDB Realm to perform insert a document, delete a document, and search a document. And I'll show you that how powerful it is when I go to the Angular application. So if there's a rule that document's owner ID is same as user ID, then without writing any extra code, Realm only returns documents related to active user to the app. So we can go ahead and create a rule that, hey, only create a rule for the read operation that, hey, if for this document the owner ID is same as the current user, return only these documents, and only those documents should be returned. So in your application, you don't have to go and write a note such that get me notes of Dhananjay or get me notes of Elias. No. How it works that whatever is the logged in user, it will take that current user and only get you notes of that user if we enable these rules. And I'll show you how to enable that. And rules and permissions and a document and field label can be configured from the Realm UI. So I'll show you in the demo how you can enable rules. Something like this, where you say that, hey, owner ID is equal to user ID, and you do that in the Realm UI. And here we are saying that for the insert documents, delete documents, and the search documents. Now, how to use MongoDB Realm in Angular? So go ahead and create an Angular app, then just do npm install realm web, and that's it. And I'll show you the code. Let's go through the code walkthrough. So here you see that let's create that. Once we have done that, the best way is that go and create an Angular service, and in Angular service import Realm as it's on your screen. And then in the constructor of the service, you can create a Realm app. You can say that this dot app equal to new Realm app, and then you got to pass an object where you need to set ID ID of your Realm app. In the Realm UI, you can see the ID of your app. In the constructor, whenever constructor object is created, a new object of Realm app is created. So this is what you need to do. Now, let's say that you have to perform a login operation. So there's a login button on the component, and you have a reactive form. You are taking a username and password, and then you are passing that information to the service. In the service, you have this function, login, which takes the email and password, and we just created an object app. You just have to say this dot app dot login realm dot credential dot email password, pass email and password, and it will return you the user, or it will return you the message that, hey, this user, the password is wrong, or user does not exist. And this returns a promise. That's why I have put await and async. So what message I'm trying to give you here is that once we have created a Realm app in Angular, it is just one line of code to log in a user through email and password. Once the user is returned, what I'm doing, I'm creating object of Mongo client to perform database operations on the data. And there you got to pass service ID. And I'll show you what is service ID as well. So this is the code you need to perform the login. All right, so when you do login with email and password, it returns a promise, and on the successful resolve of the promise object, it saves the user with tokens in the browser local storage, something like that what you see on your screen. And on logout, this information would get deleted. And we'll see that in the demo as well. Now to register user, again, just one line of code, this dot app dot email password auth dot register user, passing email and password. And you can do either like this, or you can use normal promise as well. What I'm just trying to show you that you can do that also in the bottom. Again, it's just one line of code. Now to confirm a user, like what is confirm a user? That when you register a user on your behalf, Realm will send an email on that email address with a token in the email. It will send a confirmation URL and the email. Now I'll show you that how we are setting that confirmation URL and everything with a token. Now when user comes to that URL, you should have a button. User clicks on that button, then you can call confirm user email, and then this dot app dot email password auth dot confirm user. It will confirm the user for you. So when you confirm a user, you can confirm a user in three ways. A user can be confirmed manually in the Realm UI. A user can be confirmed is in confirmed state or pending state. User can be also manually added or deleted from the Realm UI. And this is how user looks in the Realm UI. This is the code to log out a user. So you see that how we are doing user authentication with like 5 lines of code for all the operations. This code will get you the current active user, because there could be multiple users logged in on the device. You can get the current active user like this, and you really need a current active user to perform CRUD operation on your data, because we are setting the rule that owner ID should be equal to user ID. All right, now to insert a document. Again, this is this.mongo.db.test.collection, and I'll show you in the code. But you remember that we created a Mongo client for the current user, that was Mongo. Then .db, test is the name of the collection. Test is the name of the database, and sequence is the name of the collection in which we are inserting this. And then Mongo collection.insert1, and it returns the promises, and that's why on the top you see that async. So this is to insert a document, again to read a document, and this is very important slide. You see that to read a document, I'm just saying that this.mongo.db.test.collection.sequence. I'm not putting user information. Realm SDK and Realm is smart enough to only fetch me data about debug mode at outlook.com, all the notes of only debug mode at outlook.com. It will not give me notes of other users. And I'm not writing any extra code for that. If you look at here in the late notes, I'm just doing the generic find. I'm not putting any query in that. And this is possible due to the rules. All right, and this is how you can display a data in the Angular, because if you read the document, if you look at here, it returns the promises. So in the component, what I'm doing, I'm just converting that promise to a observable using from, such that I can use async pipe or classical Angular way of reading the data. So converting promises to observable such that we can use async pipe on the template. All right, so let's see that the app demo again. Let us see that the Angular code and walk through, and then we'll come back to the slides again. So here is our Angular application, as you see. Very first, let us go and see that structure. We have one app routing. In the routing, what I have done, I have one home component, and then it has auth guard enabled here. Then it has a children where we have notes component, writes component. So this is called child routes, which we have created here from line number 17 to line number 30. And then we have activated a auth guard such that all the child routes are now guarded. Then we have a route for confirm user. Then we have a route for start, means login. Then there's a route for sign up. So this is how routing works. Let's go back to once app module.ts, and as you see that I'm using some of the Angular material buttons and all that, which is imported here, and then I have created a pipe for the filtering, which you saw in the demo, positive or negative emotions. All right, so this is app module, looks pretty simple. This is your app routing, and that also look very simple, which we just saw. One child route and then few routes, confirm user, email, start, and sign up. Okay, now the soul of this application is MDB service.ts, where we are integrating Angular with Realm. So here what I have done, here you see that I have imported that in line number 3, import star as Realm from Realm Wave. Once that is done, and of course I have installed Realm in the application. And if I go to, if I show you the package.json here you can find Realm Wave in line number 24. Okay. So now in MDB service.ts, we imported it, then creating some variables. And then in the constructor here, we are creating the Realm app. We are saying that this.app, new Realm app ID, and here we are passing the ID. Now from where we can get that ID? If you go to your Realm app here, so let's go to Realm apps, and in the Realm app here, you see that right here is your app ID, which you can see here. Okay, so we are passing that Realm app ID here to create the Realm app, an object of Realm app in the Angular application. Then here I am checking whether user is already logged in or not logged in. If user is already logged in, then we would have a current user. If we have a current user, then what we are doing, we are saving current user in user, and then we are creating object of Mongo client. Now why we are creating object of Mongo client? This is required to perform CRUD operation on the database. And as you see that our Realm app here is based on a cluster, and when we were creating a Realm app, you saw that it is there's a database thing to that. And here if you go to the data here in the data access, it would tell you that it has these functions and all those enabled here. All right, so for that, what we are doing there, that for that we are creating that Mongo client for the current logged in user. Here you see that we are using this .user.mongo client. What does it mean? That only we would get data for that current user. Only whenever user is inserted, owner ID is set to this user ID. And we have set that rule. Let's go here to the rules. And this is we have set a rule on test, and here it is showing you all the collections of all the tables and collections of that cluster on which this Realm app is created. We have done that in the sequence, and in the sequence here you can go and add a role. But if you go and look at this rule, so let's edit it. It says that apply name owner when owner ID is user ID for insert document, delete document, and search document. If we do that, then only for whenever we insert a document, always the owner is set to the current user, and only whenever we read a document, only the data of the current user would be returned to us. Okay, so this is how you can set the rules here. It's pretty simple. You can go and add a new role and so on. All right, so let's go back to code again. In the code, that's why we are here creating this, and again here you need to pass your ID of the MongoDB, which we are passing it here. All right, so once the constructor is done, let's see that how the login happens, and we would walk it backwards from the component. So let's say that here I have a component called here I should have a component called start. Start is actually login, and let's go to start component HTML, and here you see that it is nothing but reactive forms. In the reactive form, it is calling a start user function. In line number 15, it has two input controls for email and password, and then there's a button called login. If you go to start user, here is the start user, and but before that, let's look here. Here we are creating a reactive form, and then in start user we are making a call to login, and here we can get rid of this. So here we are making a call to the login from the MDB service, and then passing the email and password. And once user is successfully logged in, we are navigating to the home component, home route. Otherwise, we are displaying some error here. Now let's go to this login function, and here is a login function. It returns a promise. That's why here is a async. And then here we are saying this.app.login, passing the email and password, and it is await, means it is going to return a promise. Once that user is available to us, then we are saying this.mongo equal to this.user.mongo client, and we need Mongo client to perform CRUD operations. So this is how your login functionality looks. So now if you look at here, and if you go to the application, let me log out here, and so you see that for this login, actually we have retained the number of lines is maybe one line here in the service, one line here too, to perform the login through the Realm app, and in the component, whatever we had to write, we wrote, and that is also just a promise and then some reactive forms code. It is as that simple, and our login is through the Realm app. How our Angular app development is getting speed up is in front of you. Okay, so now we know the login functionality. Let's look into the sign up functionality. So for the sign up, we have a component here called sign up. Again, pretty simple. It has a reactive form here, and then it has a sign up component.ts, and it calls sign up user that has register user. When you go to that register user, it is just using email password auth.register user. You are passing email and password. On successfully registering of the user, we are coming back to sign up here, and then navigating the user to the start where user can log in, and so on. So again, it's like 2-3 lines of code and sign up is happening. Now when someone is signing up, they could so when some user would sign up, if you go here in the realm, they would be inside the app users. In the app user, you see that I have right now debug mode Outlook and Dhananjay.25 July. You can, when you sign up, a new user would get added here. So let me go ahead and let's say that I'll just give some ID here. So let's say I say Dhananjay.Kumar at, or I'll let's say put John.Pace at MongoDB.com. And let's say for him, I'm putting some password. Now what would happen? This would send him authentication, a confirmation email, and which he has to register. But right now, if I go to the pending here, you see that John Page is already added here. And here, if I want, I can manually confirm the user. I can use run user confirmation again, such that again email would go. Or if user clicks on that link, so when user clicks on that link, if you go to here, if I can show you, in the code, if user clicks on that, we have already here in the app routing, we have a route for confirm user and then confirm email component would get called here. And here you see that confirmed email component. It is, the HTML looks like this, sign up form, and there's just a button confirm email. And when user clicks on that in the confirm email, it goes to MDB service at confirm user email and go to definition, and there that URL would have a token there. So here we are saying that token is string, token ID is string, and how we are reading that? We are reading that in the using the query parameters of that confirmation URL which is sent to the user. We are reading that token and token ID, passing it to the confirm user, and then here in the service, if you look at here, that token ID will be passed, and that's it. And your confirmation of user would happen. So this is how your confirmation of user would happen. So we are here, and so if you go to the authentication, and then if you go to the email and password, here you see that it is asking you for email confirmation URL, email confirmation subject, what you want to send. If you have some password reset URL and all that. Right now I have put it to localhost 4200 because I'm running Angular on the local host. But here you can see that confirmation URL is confirm user email. And in the routing also we have confirm user email right here. So it allows you to work with the local host as well. Of course, John would not able to confirm himself right now because he doesn't have access to my local host. But when we put it on the production, we can change this URL to the real URL. Okay, so now we saw the confirm user, we saw the login, we saw register. Next is that once user is logged in, so let's go ahead and log in for a user. So we say Dhananjay.25 July at gmail.com, and then I put a password. So now I am inside for Dhananjay here, Dhananjay.25 July, and Dhananjay does not have, Dhananjay.25 July at gmail.com does not have any information, does not have any notes yet. So we'll go and write a notes for him, and we'll say that, let us write some bigger notes. For example, year 2020 was not that good due to pandemic. However, it gave us hope that we can fight together. So let's say you want to put this information for the 100.25 July, and I'll say save. So it is saved here. Now let's let's go back to MongoDB here. And if I open this again, if I open this Atlas in the different tab, okay, you see that it is showing it as a negative thing for the 100.25 July. And here in the Atlas, let's go to collections. And then let's go to test, let's go to sequence. And you see that here for owner ID is some CE3AC2. Right now the name is hard coded, so don't focus on that. But here you see that owner ID is some E3AC2. But if you go to the next record here, see Happy Diwali for everyone. Here owner ID is CE3AC2 and here owner ID is 423FA. And we have not written any extra code for that. While fetching the data, Realm will take care of that. And what I mean by that, that if you go to here in the notes component.ts, here you are saying that, hey, get me notes, right click, go to definition. And here in get notes, we are just saying that go to this database, go to this collection and find all the notes. We are not putting any query that, hey, find me notes of only this owner ID. And it is only giving us the notes of the current user, which is set as that owner ID. And this is what is the winning point here you should focus. And that's why here, if you look at here, we are only getting right now we are getting information about that user, which is Dhananjay.25july.com. You refresh it, you would be there because it has stored the data in the, when you log in, it has stored the data in the local browser, local storage. So if you go to application and local storage, you see that it has data stored here. But when I go and say, hey, log out, I logged out and those data got deleted from there. All right, so now let's go and again log in with different user. We'll say debug mode at outlook.com. And password. And here you see that it has information about only the debug mode at outlook.com. It does not have that pandemic 2020 information, which we just entered. So this is how you can perform the read operation. Is as simple as that. To save the data, I have a write component. In the write component, what I'm saying that, okay, again, I have one form here. And then I guess I don't have a form, I just have a text area, and then reading that in a ng model feelings, then passing that feelings in the save notes. Go to definition and save note. Here we can go and take the username. So when you create Realm allows you to have custom field for the user, which you can configure in the Realm UI. So you have to configure name or address or something, you can do that. I have not configured that for this. So here I'm just hard coding it. Then I'm saying notes equal to notes. And here I'm saying owner ID is equal to this.user ID. This.user is the current logged in user. And this is the line which is doing all the magic. And here then I'm just inserting the data. And then we have a logout. So to log out again, if you go to the logout in the, here we have notes. Okay, I guess on the home we have a logout button, or maybe in the notes we have a logout button. So in the service I can show you that how we are doing the logout operation here, and here is your logout. It's just that logout. You don't have to even do that line number 69, and it should be able to log out for you. So this is how easy it is to use MongoDB Realm in Angular application, and the full-fledged running application is in front of you. So let's this source code, I'll put it on the GitHub. You can download from there. And if you'll have any question, you can ask me about the code. Now let's go back to the slide again. But before we go and look at the slides, whatever left here, let us look at how we are integrating Azure Cognitive Services in Realm function. So here you see that in the Realm there is a concept of triggers, as we talked. In the triggers you see that you can go and create a trigger. So here say add a trigger, and we discussed there are three types of trigger: database, authentication, and schedule. So here you can select the database trigger. Then it will ask you the cluster name, choose cluster. Then it would ask you to choose a database name. We can choose it from here. Then the collection, I'm choosing sequence. You can choose the operation type for what this trigger is. And then it is saying that full document, say yes here. And then it would say that select a function type. So here you can select a function, and then from the drop down you can create a function, or you can choose an existing function. So in this way you can create a trigger. Here I have already created a trigger, so I'm not going to create that. Once you have created the trigger, then in the function here you see that I have created a function on insert. And this function is attached to the triggers which I have already created. Here you can see that for this new record trigger, there is a linked function on insert, and which is enabled. Now here in this function, what we are doing, once data is inserted from Angular through Realm app in Atlas, this function is being called. In this function you see that first we are reading the whole document in line number 4. So data to insert, change event, full document. After that, if you look at line number 6 to line number 31, it is a pure JavaScript code you must be aware of. We are doing nothing here, just making a call to Azure Cognitive Service, setting the URL, setting the headers, and then setting the document to be posted on Azure Cognitive Services URL as it is expected. If I show you that even in the Angular code, you write something like that, like you have the URL of your Azure Cognitive Service, then you are setting the header. Then what you are doing, you are creating the document the way that Azure Cognitive Service is expecting. Same thing what we are doing here, we are doing it here, creating that document. Then here I am making a HTTP post operation. Now you may have a question that, hey, in the slide you told us that a function does not support async await, but here you have await. When I said it does not support async await, I meant for the operation on the documents, operation on the database, not to make an API call. All right, so here it is okay, and then it is returning us a data in response, and then we are reading that data. So here you need to use eJSON.parse because it is extended JSON as we talked in the slide to preserve the JSON types. Then I'm reading the response body text here, then finding the sentiment. Once that is done, what I'm doing, I'm finding the ID of the change document. Okay, and then using the context.service, we are reading that collection in the collection. Then we are creating the query where we are saying ID equal to doc ID, means the changed ID. Then creating update query where I'm setting the emotion value to EAI, whatever is returned from there, positive, negative, neutral, returned from the Azure Cognitive Services. And then I'm saying absurd false, means if there is no record, don't insert a new one. If absurd is true, then if MongoDB query does not find the record, find a document, it would create a new one. We are saying absurd false, means don't do that. And then here you see this is a promise. That's what I meant in the slide. We are making a promise update to 1, and then we are updating that, and that's it. Now looking at this code, you may think that it's a pure JavaScript, and here we have integrated that Azure Cognitive Services here. So this is what we are doing once document is inserted to find out whether an emotion is positive or negative or neutral or mixed. So you saw that how in our application we are using MongoDB Atlas, MongoDB Realm, Azure Cognitive Services text analysis, and Angular, and all it took like not more than 2 to 3 hours to create that. And it is a kind of a smart app, kind of many entrepreneur can call this app as artificial intelligence enabled cloud notes app, and they may get funding. So just take this source code from GitHub. I'll share a link with you after the conference, and go and build something on top of this. Use MongoDB Atlas, use MongoDB Realm. If you may have any question, reach out to me. So here we have reached at the end of my talk, and let me just show you here that you can find resources about Realm on docs.mongodb.com/realm. You can find resources about Atlas on that URL. If you have any query, you can reach out to me at dhananjay.kumar@mongodb.com, or you can reach out to me on Twitter @debug_mode. So once again, I'm very happy and want to say thank you to organizers, volunteers, all the sponsors. These conferences are not possible without sponsors. And then Ilyas is leading it. It's a really good. He's really leading it in a very good way. And Deepak Rajendran from Microsoft team and everyone who has put this conference together. So I hope you find my talk useful. Give me your feedback on Twitter, which is debug_mode, or you can write email to dhananjay.kumar@mongodb.com. These slides and resources will be available for you in a day or two. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conferences. Bye.